And what if? What if God already had a plan in place that would help every one of us to parent beyond our capacity? To parent beyond our flaws and our weakness and our ignorance and our darkness and our dysfunction and our junk. What if God already had a plan that says, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually help you to parent way beyond all your stuff out here at a level where your kid's got a really good shot. Turning out really, really well. What if it wasn't about a better picture but a bigger story? And what if there was already a plan in place that would help us parent way beyond our own limitations and our own inherent capacity? Well, the series that we're beginning today is based on the assumption that the answer to both questions are, yes, there is. It isn't about a better picture, it's about a bigger story. And the hero of the story is God. And yes, there's a plan that God has put in place to help every single one of us parent so far beyond our capacity that their kids actually have a great shot of turning out really well. The answer is yes. And what I want us to do is I want us to go on a 5-part journey. We're beginning it today. And I want us to discover, I want us to relearn, I want us to be gripped by 5 values, 5 principles that if we'll embrace, we can parent way beyond our capacity. And that if we'll embrace a bigger story of grace and redemption and reconciliation will be told through our lives and into our families. The first principle that I'd like to draw our attention to this morning is called widen the circle. And it's the simple notion that in order for us to be able to parent beyond our capacity, it is essential that we help our children develop strategic relationships with other adults in the faith community. Now let me kind of back up and explain this a little bit. I want to read a text of Scripture that's found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, beginning in verse 4. Well, we need a little context. Moses is the one speaking. It's through Moses God is talking to Israel. And this is before they enter into the promised land. Remember their story? Remember how at one point they were all slaves down in Egypt. There were millions of them. And they were abused, and they were used, and they were crying out to God for freedom and deliverance and a better life. And God answered that prayer by bringing Moses, who at the time was a shepherd in the Arabian Peninsula, and he drave him, and then there were the 10 plagues, and let my people go, and God did miraculous things, and the people were able to leave Egypt, but then the armies came and said, now we changed our mind, we want you back, and there was a parting of the Red Sea, and the destroying of the most powerful army on the face of the earth, and there was the wandering around in the desert, and there was the manna being fed in the morning, and the water coming from rocks, and the laws given from God, so that they could be a nation of peace and goodness and a shining light to the whole world. And now they're about to enter into that promised land. And here's Moses, a very, very old leader, knowing he's not going to be able to make the journey with them, but he has a consuming burden and passion. He's going, we've got to keep the legacy alive. We've got to do something to ensure that our culture, the culture of faith, we have to make sure that there's a vibrant community of people that are really connected with God and that God is flowing into them and His supernatural power and goodness are being revealed through them. And so with that motivation, he gets up and he begins to speak, and God begins to speak through Moses. And in that context of keeping the community of faith alive and ensuring that the future is bright and powerful and good and delivers on all the promise that it holds, he says these words. Deuteronomy 6 and verse 4, "Hear, O Israel, The Lord your God, the Lord is one. Hear, O Israel, to whom is God speaking? Not a trick question. He's speaking to everybody in the nation of Israel, right? He's speaking to the entire community of faith, right? Hear, O Israel, everybody in the community of faith, listen up. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength. Who was supposed to do that? The whole community of faith. Okay? Who was supposed to do that? Exactly right. Very good. These commandments I give you today are to be on your hearts. Who was supposed to do that? You get the idea. Impress them on your children. Who was supposed to do that? Wait! That's not the job of the whole community of faith. That's just the job of mom and dad, isn't it? Isn't it? Oh, God. Have we discovered God making a mistake? We looked at the whole community of faith, and he says to them all, impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit in your home and when you walk along the road in the morning and in the evening. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of all of your houses and on your city gates. And it's like, wait a minute. This whole command to impress these things on your children. To be able to preserve the legacy, to have a vibrant community of faith, used of God to change the future, is given within the context of an entire community of faith, collectively assuming the responsibility to get that job done. And we learn a powerful, powerful lesson right here. And maybe we frame the lesson this way. Our kids need voices speaking into their lives other than mom and dad's. I would never for one moment, and I'll state this again just in a moment, the primary responsibility belongs to mom and dad as the primary voice, but it is abundantly clear that our kids need other people's voices speaking into their lives if they're going to be shepherded well into adulthood of spirituality and functionality and life-changing power. That's just simply going to be required. Hey, look. Can you remember way back when you were growing up, especially when you got into like middle school and high school? Did you have any adults in your life whose voice you just heard and it made a positive difference in you? I remember when I was about in 6th and 7th grade, Mr. Boucher. He was our gym teacher and the basketball coach. He's the one who taught me how to shot a jump shot that was so good I could have made it in the NBA were I 1 foot taller. I can remember the voice of Ed Whitford. He was an adult, and he was the high school Sunday school teacher in the church that I grew up in, that I came to faith in. And I can remember hearing his voice just helping me to understand how Christianity is lived out in the real world. I remember the voice of Bill Young, my high school football coach, about leadership and about effort and about team. I remember the voice of Becky Baker, my freshman speech teacher, when she spoke into my life when I was 18 and 19 years old. And these voices are voices I needed to